everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to grow. I'm not the one with two star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
Good morning, David.
Good morning. Welcome to week 3 of Speaker of the House saga.
Don't even get me started. Gee, it's sad. You know, I was just thinking about it this morning. In fact, I just printed this off. There's several articles about this, but the title of this is Why Jordan Couldn't Grab the Speaker Gavel After 3 Failed Ballots. And I think we just lost our feed over there for some reason. So you go ahead, but I'll keep talking. Why Jordan couldn't grab the Speaker gavel after 3 failed ballots. They finally voted in secret. Well, I guess it was like a kind of a closed door session somewhere that to just pull his nomination and
the Republican caucus.
Right, the caucus to just end it, just end his run there. I don't know what the deal is with the Republicans. I saw, Congressman Jimenez out of Florida on there, and he was one of a lot of it's so petty. It's very petty stuff. Everybody's got little bitty grudges and grievances, and they're upset and mad about something from the past, and it's just sad. But anyway, they did, as I said, they finally decided to drop him. Jordan's downfall had several factors in play, but a few of them drove him down the exit ramp. After 25, it kept growing. The number each time became less and less. Mike Kelly, Republican from Pennsylvania, who didn't vote for Jordan to be Speaker, told Fox News Digital he thinks the large number of people who voted to pull Jordan from the nomination was due to the conference's secret ballot. House Republican Conference convened after the third Speaker's vote as a nominee via a secret ballot. There was no reason for the suspense, Kelly said. There was no reason for any of this going on, which is true.
Yeah, Thomas Massey mentioned that in caucus, the vote was, I think, 114 to 86 in the decision that let's no longer recommend him. And that was late Friday afternoon.
Yeah, and that basically, I think, was... See, I think they wanted to finally quit this because as they started, the diehard anti... I don't think it was as much, from what I understood, hearing Jimenez talk, it was as much, if not more, a vote against Gates.
Yeah, Gates, yeah. Mm-hmm.
As it was Jordan.
You're right on.
It was against that group of 8, not against Jordan.
Yeah, it was the rhinos saying we can be just as petty as you Tea Party people. Right. And I've got to say, I commend Gates and 6 of his colleagues, 7 of the 8, went to the microphones on the steps and said, here's what we'll do. Punish us. Strip of us of our committee assignments, censure us, whatever. They didn't say expel us. Everything else. They said, if you're mad at us, take it out on us. But none of you are mad at Jordan.
Right.
And now there are people stoking that.
Yeah.
And among them is a good friend of ours. Mark Wayne Mullen came over to the House for the first vote. And he went to the microphones and the venom he said on the microphones about Gates. He said, I won't even talk to that man. And I think that rhetoric needs to calm down. We're not children here.
No, I agree. No, it was... It's ridiculous. This stuff is ridiculous. It needs to be bigger than one person. You cannot let your being upset about one person and because your guy didn't get it, allow that to affect everything. And keep another good man out of it.
Yeah, every bit of rhetoric that was spoken last January, when we went 15 rounds, now flip it. Because whatever you said to Matt Gaetz now, he has a right to say to you because you're showing you're no bigger than the guy you hate.
And the 8 and probably a few others who may have really liked Jordan can do the same thing again.
Yeah.
And we're right back where we started.
Yeah, we haven't healed the core problem, the division.
The core problem is not there. And Jim Jordan is a good guy. And, Republicans, Marionette, Miller Meeks of Iowa, Nick LaLauda of New York said that they received death threats. Now, that's an excuse.
Well, they want sympathy.
They want sympathy. They received, and their spouses received 3 death threats. Saying, somebody told him to go F yourself and die. If you're that weak, if you're that weak, somebody called me on the phone and told me to F myself and die. I mean, come on. You don't need to be there then.
Yeah.
You don't need to be there, And if I see your face, I'll whip all the hair off your effing head, you effing scumbag, the person wrote. I mean, seriously, that's all you had to deal with? Come on.
Yeah, look, it's Friday night, and Joe Bob's had a 6-pack, and he's running his mouth, and he got on the phone with you.
Well,
and I don't condone it, but I'm sorry, this is America.
Well, and listen, if that's all it takes, the Democrats have a new strategy.
Exactly.
All they have to do is get the phone banks ready and call your office or you and start. And who better would have your personal number? The average Democrat is not, the average Republican is not going to have your number. But the Democrat, other congressmen, senators would have your number and they would be able to call you.
Yeah.
This is just BS. I hate this stuff. It's just ridiculous. Kelly said there's no reason for people getting threatening phone calls, and the total votes against Jordan in the secret ballot were overwhelming. Jordan stance on issues.
Thomas Massey told us it was about 60-40.
Yeah. Jordan's stance on issues like the 2020 election also played a part in him losing the nomination. So because he was one of the people so pro-Trump, apparently he's saying, played a part in this. So basically outing the rhinos. Saying that the rhinos raised their ugly heads. They didn't want him because he's a real Trump supporter. And everybody knew that. The last presidential election became a key talking point among House Democrats as they backed Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries against Jordan. However, the 2020 election became a contentious point in the GOP conference call as well. It was a major factor in Ken Buck not voting for Jordan. So here you've got Colorado Republican.
Oh, he's a big rhino.
Yeah,
everybody knows.
And so you've got all of these Republicans. Here's the beauty of it: the rhinos are showing themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
They're outing themselves, and I pray that the real, true elephants will reveal themselves and will get these guys out.
Yeah.
It's time. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so from there, that's enough of that. Let's move on to what's next.
Well, I got to talk about Hearn.
Exactly.
Because I said last week, if Jordan doesn't make it, Hearn is the next in line. And
among others, he's the potential next in line.
Well, I'll put it this way. I read both
Would you say he's number 2 with a bullet?
Yeah, well, the Hill and Roll Call both list him. Now, the only other person as prominent as him would be Tom Emmer, who's the whip, who McCarthy is endorsed because he's part of McCarthy's team, right? But Donald Trump said, there is no way I can endorse Tom Emmer. So,
Yeah, but the way it looks, you've got these rhinos who don't want anybody that Donald Trump wants. Mm-hmm. See, that's the problem right now. The rhinos are raising their ugly heads, their ugly horns, I guess you would say. But this is what's ticking me off, that we, within our party, we don't need the Democrats working against them.
yeah.
We're working against ourselves.
Yeah, I understand. The reason I'm saying this is Donald Trump had no problem with McCarthy. He had no problem with any of them except Tom Emmer.
Right.
So Trump must know something.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just saying what we're facing.
Yeah. Now, I want to say, because I know Minnesota politics, having grown up there, Minnesota is two states. There's inside the Metro Beltway, which is all Democrat by a mile.
Yeah.
But the rest of Minnesota is overwhelmingly Trump mega. Overwhelmingly.
And where does Emmer?
Tom is southern Minnesota. He is rural. He's prairie.
So they can get rid of him.
Yeah, I'm saying, right.
And probably should get rid of him.
We're not worried that it's so purple that if we don't take Emmer, we'll get a Democrat.
Right.
So, yeah, he could be primaried.
Right.
And
maybe should.
Yeah, but, I mean, the thing people aren't talking about is the real reason they kept McCarthy in. Nobody raised money for Democrat reelection or Republican reelection. Republican reelection like McCarthy. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, that guy was a machine for raising money. Now, much of it was the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, but then again, also, it didn't do us much good. Now, let me ask you: did he raise money for the Senate candidates as well?
Oh no, the House does their thing. Mitch McConnell kind of rules the Senate thing. But what I'm saying is, and this is according to Matt Gaetz, who's no friend. He's not going to carry water for McCarthy. Right. But he said, to McCarthy's credit, what was common is you might get as much as $100,000 from the Republican reelection. Right. McCarthy was on average raising $500,000. That's 5 times as much.
Right. See, here's what troubles me. You've got people like Jimenez, who I always thought was a pretty good guy until this. Mm-hmm. He was on with not Maria. It was on Stuart Varney's show, but he was talking to his stand-in or sit-in, I guess you would say, and he was saying essentially that he basically is holding out for McCarthy to come back. So he basically is digging his heels in for McCarthy to come. So no matter who they put up, he apparently is going to vote no. So essentially, we could be in a stalemate if you got enough of them. We could be in this until a re-election, and we get these guys out of there. I mean, that is essentially what is going to happen. We're going to have to vote these 8 people or however many the diehards are out of there and make it plain that we're not going to play this game.
Yeah. I have to tell you, what was Scalise's? Didn't he got 1 vote? Or no, he didn't. It just went straight to McCarthy. What? Well, anyway.
McCarthy?
I mean to Jordan. Jordan had 20 votes against him, then 22, and then 25.
Right.
McCarthy would fail to get at least 40. That's my prediction, based on the sources I've heard. Because now that McCarthy is out, he doesn't have the trappings of incumbency.
Well, he says he doesn't want to. He says he's not coming back. He even supported Jordan.
Yes.
He even said vote
he nominated him.
Yeah. But it didn't do these people any good because they're that stubborn and just.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, I think Hearn is the right recipe.
Oh, listen, I hope so. I would love to see Hearn in there.
Right. You and I both hope it's him, but I'm also saying analytically.
Yeah.
I think he's the right guy.
Yeah. Now, I will say I was at our CBD meeting the other night, not cannabis. It's a coffee, beer, and discussion.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, CBD. We had our meeting this last Thursday night, and there were a lot of, your more staunch conservatives that have some issues with Hearn. Mm-hmm. They don't think he's conservative enough. Mm-hmm. So, we're back to that situation. That is the problem right now within the Republican Party.
Yeah.
It is. The Democrats, I think, are pretty much united in their okay, here's the difference between Republicans and Democrats. I'm just going to say it succinctly, okay? Democrats are united in their hatred for Republicans. Mm-hmm. And they can put their differences aside. They can be pro-life or pro-choice. They can be pro-war, anti-war. They can be this. But they're united in their hatred for Republicans for whatever reason, okay? Republicans, when they're not united in their fear of and distaste for the Democrats. We get into the petty this, and this. We are not big picture people. We are not ready to put aside our smaller differences to deal with the greater enemy. And that is the destruction of our nation. And see, that is what the real problem right now within the Republican Party and our country. And so until we're able to lay down, and this is the personification of it right now, the exemplary picture of the divide in the Republican Party right now. This is bringing it to a head. It is showing the pettiness, the lack of, it began with Trump. I talked about this before. Let me just finish this thought. After Trump, the summer of 2017, I guess, after he was elected. Mm-hmm. Okay. They have this thing every year called Shakespeare in the Park. Mm-hmm. And that year they decided to do Julius Caesar. You remember we had talked about this before, and it was in the news. Mm-hmm. And what they did this year, they all dressed up in white suits, and they were the U.S. Senate, and Donald Trump was Julius Caesar. Mm-hmm. And the Senate turned on him and stabbed him to death. Mm-hmm. And no one really got it, but I saw it as a prophetic vision. Mm-hmm. And it turned out to be a true prophetic vision. Donald Trump was not done in by the Democrats. Donald Trump was done in by Republicans, by a lack of support and defense and just faith in him by his own party. And so, your Mitch McConnell's, Mitt Romney, and on and on and on and on, all of these people that, and down the line to the common person talking about, and Christians that I hear finding all kinds of reasons why they can't vote for Donald Trump, right, but at the same time don't have any problem, or they may bark about Biden and the Democrats, but it's not their fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, they just couldn't vote for Donald Trump. Well, it's the ultimate epitome of stupidity that you won't vote for this person, so you get that person. Yeah. But wait a minute, it's not my fault. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just that you can't make 2 and 2 equal 4. Somehow that's somebody else's fault. It's some other equation or something like that. Okay. Go ahead.
I got 4 bullet points.
All right.
Okay. First of all, to your most recent, Ken Buck literally said of Jordan why he's so bad, because he's an election denier. Now, you got guys like Ken Buck saying that. He's no different than Mitch McConnell.
No.
Okay? So,
but worse, I mean, if he's coming out and actually calling him an election denier, no. He's an election questioner.
Yeah.
And if you can't draw a distinction between an election questioner and a denier.
Yeah. It's kind of like, and I'm just using this for analogy, anybody who doesn't agree with your totalitarian views on every vaccine is good is an anti-vaxxer. No. Okay, so let me move on to this.
Right.
One of the problems we still have deeply in the Republican Party, although Donald Trump really blazed a trail of telling media go to hell and not going to be fazed by media attacks, most politicians are scared to death of what the media is going to say. And I hate to say this, Jim Jordan hasn't gotten over the hump yet. And he's terrified. And they know that. I mean, they can run psychological profiles on you and know what works. Why do I say that? Because after yesterday's vote, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat leader, spent over an hour just trashing Jordan, literally calling.
Wait a minute, you said Jim Jordan's terrified or terrifying?
Well, both are true. That they're scared of him.
Yeah.
But they know his kryptonite is he doesn't like being attacked personally. I mean, they're calling him a January 6th enabler. Right. And keep in mind, this was a few years ago. Some other wrestling coach at Ohio State had molested guys. They tried to pin it on him, saying, he knew about it and covered it up. They had no evidence.
Nope.
But it terrified him.
Sure. Well, it should.
And, but the thing is, you need a little more backbone than to grovel. And Donald Trump, remember what he said to Joe Rogan? Quit groveling. Don't apologize, because now they'll come after you double time.
Right.
Okay. Now, the other thing I want to say, this is one of your first points. Your friends at CBD who don't think that Hearn is conservative enough. All I would ask you to do next time you get with them is ask what votes he cast that they have a trouble with.
Oh, listen, I agree totally. No, I totally agree. Now, one thing I will say, there is an article out. In fact, it was on Twitter. It's not an article. There's this anonymous.
Oh, yes.
Did you see that one?
No, I didn't, but I can imagine the integrity of the journalist.
Well, it's a bar graph of all of the money invested in armament manufacturers. And Hearn was like way up there.
Oh, so he's getting
$1.2 million. He's invested in Raytheon and in the arms manufacturers.
Okay, now hold on.
Stock investments.
Okay, but these guys have to do blind trusts for their investing once they get in, right?
No.
Oh, they don't.
No,
that's true.
no.
Yeah, because they're passive investments.
Right. In fact, that's some of the things. Some of the big issues they want to make them make it a law that you can't invest in any stocks that come before Congress, and they voted it down.
Yeah,
that's
true, because it seems to me the president has to do that. He has to move it all to
right.
And it's only fair. I mean,
I would think, they should. They shouldn't have to. But here's the deal. Okay, here, like the way I argue against it is this. Okay, the difference between Hearn and, let's say, even Mark Wayne, although Mark Wayne had a lot of money when he went in, but let's say Jim Bridenstine. Okay. Jim Bridenstine did not have a lot of money going in. Okay. Take somebody else. I don't know anybody. Who did Jim replace? What was his name?
John Sullivan.
John Sullivan. I don't think John Sullivan had a lot of money when he went in. Right. Okay, so these guys go in with not a lot of money. Jim, in fact, I think had a couple of $100,000 of student loan debt.
Yeah.
Okay. Then when they come out, there's no more student loan debt, and they probably have, several $100,000 that they now have, if not a million. Or I'll go. Let's take it away from Oklahoma. Let's take it for national. Barack Obama, when he became a congressman, okay, I think his net worth was somewhere around $100,000.
Yeah, U.S. Senator, right?
Right. When he left the U.S. Senate and became president, he was worth $1 million just by going into the Senate. So he went from like 100 and some thousand to over $1 million, and he was only in the Senate for 2 years.
Yeah.
When he left the White House after 8 years, $100 million. Now, how do you go? How do you go from $1 million to $100 million in 8 years?
Well, you read Hillary's book on cattle futures investing.
Well, yeah, cattle futures, yeah, right. No, but so I think I told this story a couple of weeks ago when I was in college, and I went home to my mother's house. And she's listening to one of the early predecessors of talk radio. It was someone calling in, and the lady was talking about how she didn't like Richard Nixon. And she was saying, God save us from these poor boys going in, give us a rich president because these poor boys will rob us blind. You get them in there, and they'll just be crooks. Which brings me to Joe Biden versus Donald Trump.
Yep.
Everybody, the Democrats try to portray Donald Trump as somebody with these nefarious deals, trying to get him, for having shady dealings in office.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to get him actually for shady deals before office. But anyway, when actually the ones with all the shady deals, if you want to look at it, how much did Joe have before he went into, he never was in private business. He was always in.
Always a
politician. And now he's a multimillionaire with houses everywhere. His family is richer than anything. None of them have ever done anything except make money off of Joe's influence.
Yeah.
Right? Influence peddlers is all they are. So anyway, to put to rest about Kevin Hearn owned and may still own, probably somehow, how many McDonald's?
No, I asked him.
Did he divest himself?
Yeah, we were talking, going back to his pickup after a town hall meeting, his wife and me and him, and I said, "Are you still in business?" Because he and Hearn, Kevin Stitt, and Henry Primo had a business. He says, "No, I had to divest of everything." And I said, "What about Mullen with his plumbing business?" He says, "No, he spent 6 figures fighting it and lost." Now this was
Kevin did.
Yeah. No, Kevin said that Mullen did. And he learned if Mullen can't keep his own plumbing company by his own name, he said, I ain't going to try to keep my stocks.
I see.
So yeah, that, Hearn just was clear. He says, no, you have to go to truly passive investing, like IA, stock market, bonds,
right,
futures,
So however many McDonald's he owned, because he owned, 12? 20?
I think it was up to 20 at one point.
20. Okay, so, just imagine you own 20 McDonald's franchises, okay, which, didn't he start as just an employee?
Yes.
So he starts as an employee, ends up owning 20 McDonald's, which has to be worth something.
Yeah.
And you take that money and you invest it.
Right.
Well, I don't care what he invested in. I would say, if you're a savvy investor and you're reading reports and you're smart, which we know he is, and he's proven himself to be because they're looking at him for being the new speaker,
Yeah.
he would know where to invest.
Right. In fact, I have to say, in last night, Kevin Hearn was on with Sean Spicer on the first media, and he went into great detail about it. He said, I started as a franchise guy. He says, McDonald's went through a difficult time where the franchise owners really had this enmity against the corporate side. He said, and we went through a number of CEOs and stock value was going down and down and down. But then finally we changed how we did it. He said, and then I became part of the corporate side. He was the chief financial officer for McDonald's Corp worldwide. Mm-hmm. And they turned that around. So that was his biggest prowess.
Right.
So
the guy is a financial wizard.
He really is.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So it would not surprise me that he knows how to make money,
right,
and use his money and what to invest in and so forth. Some people just have it and some don't. And so for these people to try to attack him because he has $1 million invested, and that $1 million is probably just a fraction of what his total holdings are.
Right. Yeah.
It's like the stuff they were talking about with Donald Trump and buying the hotel in D.C.
Yeah.
Which is a fraction of the total holdings that Donald Trump has. They're always looking, but what bothers me here, and let me just finish this real quick, and I'll get back to your little list. But why is it Republicans wanting to attack our own people again? This is the thing. This was at a meeting of Republicans going after Kevin Hearn. He's our man right now. Mm. Now, at the next election, if somebody wants to run against him, and that person has some better credentials that we seem to want to put into office, let's go for it. But right now, he's our guy. Support him. Stay behind him. That's what we've got to do. Which brings me to, I'll stop. I'll get to that later.
Well,
David.
Yeah, I just want to say, and look at it. I've got it up on our Facebook, Sooner Politics Facebook page. Sean Spicer, when he finished that interview, and Hearn's off camera, he says, "Watch this guy. He's going places." Now, this is a guy who's Sean Spicer worked for the Speaker, he's worked for the RNC, and he's worked in Donald Trump's White House. Right. He knows these things. He says, this guy is a master of finance and budgeting, and he's a master at people skills. Yeah,
and I think he has a plan to get our deficit.
He did. He was tapped. He joined the what's called the Republican Study Group, and they tapped him to work on a budget. And it was so good that the then chairman of the Republican Study Group said, this is better than anything any of us have done. And Donald Trump called him to Bedford to his, place there, and meets with him and just blown away. Well, then
it's probably so good that they rejected it.
No, it's going to get implemented here. So what I'm saying is, then they decided to promote him to chairman of the entire Republican Study Group. 157 members of that Congress caucus. And I'm just saying, this guy knows, and by the way, speaking of his votes, what I told you is ask your friends, which votes do you have a problem with? Because he told him, actually, he was talking to Eric Newsmax. What's Eric?
Yeah, I forget. I know who you're talking
anyway,
about.
On Newsmax, he says, I voted against every continuing resolution because I'm principally against them. He says, there's one I voted for, but it's because it had a 30% cut in spending. 30%. He voted for that one. You can get a 30% cut. That's awesome. And that was a very short term.
Right.
But it was just one of those keep the government running, but at very slim down numbers. So you've got a guy who's voting probably more conservative than Bridenstine.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because I didn't know much about him, and I had the same attitude as a lot of other people that oh, here's a McDonald's guy, the rich guy just wants something to do. I had that same, but I've really had to readjust my. It's like I had the typical term limits idea. And earmarking. Mm-hmm. I was very much, opposed to earmarks until I heard
Jim
Inhofe explain how earmarks work and what happens when you don't earmark.
Yep.
And totally changed everything because I was going by the things that I was hearing on the street.
Exactly.
Your typical conservative thinking,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you can't have earmarks. It's because there are some people, like anything, that will take it and use it wrongly.
Right.
But the problem is, as he explained it, if you don't earmark it, the president can do whatever he wants.
President or the deep state, the agencies themselves. Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Explain it to the people.
If you fund a department, let's say Department of Education,
Mm-hmm.
and you just say, no directives on this, just here's a bunch of money. Now you got deep state people funding, critical race theory
in California,
and gender
New
changes,
York, in Chicago, and Oklahoma gets nothing.
Right. And the only way you can get the things that are important to you and your people is if you give them so much money that they can't use lack of money as an excuse. This is very much a problem we have in Oklahoma legislative politics. And whereas if you earmark, you can hold them to a budget, but at the same time say, but you're not going to cut funding for this.
Right.
And so you line it out and you say, hey, Social Security is not going to get a cut. Okay, we are going to keep that at current levels. Right. That's an earmark.
Right. This goes here. This goes here.
Yeah.
This much goes here. And you can't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
This so many billion, if we say we're spending it on education and for this particular part of education, that's where it's going. It's not going over here.
What people have a problem with earmarks on is the frivolous fluff that is probably more graft to buddies. Mm-hmm. Okay, because that does happen too. So you can't say all earmarks are bad just because some of it is irresponsible waste.
Right.
So I think we're in agreement on this.
No, yeah. It was funny when, because we talked about it on the Pat Campbell show one time, mm-hmm. and one of the retired military mm-hmm. commander from, the air base in Oklahoma City.
Oh, Tinker.
Mm-hmm. He called and he was saying, he said, if you don't have an earmark here, and you just say something for Air Force there at, Oklahoma or whatever, that means there's, they just expanded the golf course at Tinker or something, Yeah. He would say, the country club down in Tinker here, that's what they use it for. Because the money's there and, it's the usual thing that they have to spend it.
Yeah.
You spend it or lose it. So they got to spend it because if they don't, somebody else will get that money. And so what they're going to do, they're going to expand their golf course, their this or this, and usually ends up some frivolous thing rather than something that's really necessary.
Right.
Some new F-16s or something like that.
Yeah, I was told by an insider, you remember back in the early 90s when the McDonnell Douglas plant got closed here in Tulsa?
Yeah.
Okay. How that happened, according to one source I have, was punishment against Jim Inhofe by Dick Gephardt, who was the majority leader in Congress there in like 92, 93.
Yeah, I remember that, Gephardt.
And the contracts that were earmarked to come to Tulsa got earmarked to go to St. Louis. Where's Dick Gephardt from? St. Louis, what do you know? So without those government contracts, McDonnell Douglas couldn't stay open. And look at all the jobs we lost.
Yeah.
And now, do you blame Jim Inhofe or do you blame Dick Gephardt? because the Democrats in Tulsa will say that's Inhofe's fault because he didn't kowtow and bend the knee to Dick Gephardt.
Right.
But we don't play that game.
No, and and the problem is so many of our conservative friends don't understand these things. They just follow this, the typical, somebody throws this out there, and then, I'm against earmarks, and I'm for the 25th, amendment, changing the way we elect our president, getting rid of the electoral college or something or this or that, and we think it's a good idea.
Well, yeah, and if I could, just one more thing, I don't want to go too far in this, is in state politics, we have the same simplistic idea about consolidating school districts. And I was talking to a pretty well-known Republican leader in the state, and I said, we need to split up Tulsa Public School District, probably into 5. It's way too big. And he said, we got to consolidate school districts, not make more of them. And I said, it's not an either or, mutually exclusive. Both are true. Because you want to go to a manageable size, because obviously Tulsa Public Schools is not manageable, at least by anybody we've seen in decades. And so that's the oversimplistic thing. You've got to look at the nuance, because sometimes you need to expand, sometimes you need to split, it's both are true.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think probably East Tulsa, BA and Union could easily make a district. That would be one district, because if you because East Tulsa, it goes way out there and it boundaries against.
Wagner County, actually. Tulsa Public Schools by the casinos up there, Hard Rock.
Right. All the way. Yeah. You got East Tulsa and Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
So you got all of that. Yeah. But then you can get, Central Tulsa, and then you can probably do Jenks and Bixby into one. Or whatever. Well, listen, that's the problem. See, the fight you will have will be with the suburbs.
Yeah, no, I'm saying the principle I'm talking about, and I'll just say the National Association of School Superintendents says 5,000 is about the optimal size of pupils in not a school district.
Wow.
Yeah.
BA is
already too big.
The one high school, yeah.
So you simply start working on the worst of them, and you slowly roll out, and you get better and better at it. But then the other thing you don't.
Okay, so you're saying, because I'm going the other way, aren't I? I'm actually trying to make smaller districts bigger.
Yeah.
So you're saying they should, BA should have 2 districts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 2. Yeah, because the high school is, say, 6,000.
Generally, you shouldn't have more than one high school in a school district. Because with all the feeder schools.
Well, they only have one.
Broken Arrow?
Yeah. But it's too big. I mean, they should have more than one high school.
Instead of splitting into 2 high schools, they got the freshman center and the sophomore center. And that way they can have one big football team and win that gold ball for their trophy case.
Yeah, but how many gold balls do they have?
1.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they fired him. The coach that got him that. Yeah, I know it. And they're pathetic now. But here's the problem.
They're pathetic.
The trophies, the real trophies, are the kids you develop. And when you can only put 11 guys on the field, Broken Arrow has got kids that could get college scholarships if they could get playing time. And when you can only put 11 up instead of 33, because they could split into 3. They already have 3 campuses.
Okay, let's not get off on football. Let's stay
academic.
Let's stay with academic.
I say that because this is what we're fighting against. Yeah. Because Broken Arrow announced 6 years ago they were going to split up.
Well, that's what I thought. Yeah.
And then people said, but we haven't won a state football championship yet. And that's the thing we're fighting against. So it's what is your trophy? Are they the kids? Or your own vanity?
Yeah, see, that's you're right. You're exactly right. Yeah. No, I mean, I think if they did split, they would probably achieve the state championship quicker.
And here's the other thing. If they Broken Arrow, if they split into 3 high schools, all 3 high schools would still be 6A. 6A2, actually, the biggest. They are the second biggest high school in the nation.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
crazy. The second largest in the nation.
And they still can't get a football team. I think they've had 1 win this year. They're that bad.
I know.
And they hired Bill Blankenship's son to coach him.
But they should have hired Bill. Owasso did the right thing because Owasso, didn't they win state already under him?
Oh, yeah. Bill won right away when he went back to Owasso. His kid just doesn't have it, but I like Josh. I know him. He's a good guy, but he just doesn't have it.
Well, it took Bill a long time.
Yeah.
It took Bill a long time.
But what I want to say, Muskogee, for instance, when I did this study, and I worked with Senator Stanislawski on it and others, Muskogee had 7,000 in their school district. And everybody read my article and said, oh, yeah, but then, the Fort Gibson kids will get moved into Muskogee. I said, no, Muskogee doesn't get a single extra kid because they're already over 5,000. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is, you combine rural districts with rural.
So did Muskogee split? Do they have more than? Oh, they're still.
No. And this is the thing that, we got to work with Ryan Walters on, because we've got a problem right now in Tulsa. We got developers wanting to build new neighborhoods, but won't because they're in Tulsa Public School District, including out there the northwest part in Osage County. Beautiful land. Yeah. Builders would love to build houses in those oak forests.
But nobody wants to go to...
You have to sell them on McLean.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but we went off on the subject. But, the earmarks thing was why I was using the analogy of we can oversimplify things sometimes.
Changing the subject to kind of an adjacent subject, McLean High School in the education system there. It's not rocket science how to fix that.
Tell me.
I suggested years ago a simple solution, but there's not the will. A client of mine many years ago, this is back in the early 2000s.
Oh, you got to tell us.
Did I tell you this
I've
story?
heard it, but our people need to hear this.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah. He was brought in to change it, and he wasn't an educator. He had actually worked for PSO, and they made him the CEO, not a principal, so he gave him a different title. But so he started looking at running it like a CEO would, and he found it was unbelievable that teachers that gave everyone in the class a C, no grade higher, no grade lower.
Yep.
Because he said nobody really qualified, got grades higher than the C, and those who had Fs, he just decided to put it all into this average. And then teachers that just didn't care about the kids, it was just awful. And he was trying to change it and fire teachers, this and that and that. But then what he found out, this was the real problem. This was when they had the black superintendent of schools.
Oh, Thompson,
yeah.
Yes. And Laverne Wimberly was his assistant.
Yeah, and that black superintendent is the one who actually ended up firing, wanting to get rid of him, because he thought he would get maybe a token or somebody that would just play along. In this, as in Living Color, they say, "Homie, don't play that." He didn't play that. So anyway, but here's what was happening. And this, I couldn't even believe this was true, but he told me that they were purposely, I don't know if you all know this, they have this program, the way it works, you get extra money for low performing schools.
Wow.
Yeah, they get extra.
So we're incentivizing bad performance.
Right. And then you also get money for a meal, what do they call it? Oh, I can't think of it right now. But anyway, you get
the free lunch.
the free lunch programs,
Yeah.
right? And so, what was happening? They would keep these schools in North Tulsa underperforming, so they would get all of this federal money in to TPS, but then the money would go to Edison and Memorial
Yes.
and to some to East Tulsa, but they were purposely keeping McLean and certain ones underperforming so that they could keep these other schools up.
Right.
So basically, these schools were a cash cow, a sacrifice lamb,
Right.
to bring in the money. And he said it was criminal.
That's clearly putting your bureaucracy ahead of your kids, making your kids pay a price
Right.
to prop up your bureaucracy.
And when he wanted to blow the whistle on this whole deal, that's when they fired him.
yeah.
I mean, shameful.
Yep.
And so with that type of mentality, as long as these things are going on, you will never change the educational system. And then, so I remember my son, he came home one day, and this was at Union. This was at Union. I think it was, I don't remember, it was the middle school or ninth grade or something like that. But he came in, and my wife was fixing him lunch. And he says, "Oh, Mom, don't worry. You don't have to fix lunch. I get lunch free at school." And he said, "What?" My wife said, "What? Free lunch? How are you getting free lunch?" "Oh, yeah, the lady signed me up, told me that she signed me up for this program where I get a free lunch."
Yep.
And she assumed because he was a mixed black kid that she could sign him up for the free lunch program. And because the schools are getting like back then it was $5 or $6 per child, and they only spend, I think, $3 a place. So they were actually making about $2 to $3 per child every day.
You get it two different ways. You get the direct payments for their lunches, but then in your federal funding of schools, they take the macro. What percent are getting free lunches? And they're considered the underprivileged. So now your overall funding formula gets kicked up the more kids you have on free lunch.
I see.
Because that fits a profile.
Well, anyway, I went pretty quickly over there and told, "You better get my son off the free lunch program."
Right.
Because I mean, but that's what they do. They were just stereotyping, assuming, oh, this kid,
Well,
and probably maybe even not there. Maybe they were just trying to whoever they could grab,
Yeah, a person you and I both know, Tom McKay, was telling me one day, because his mother had a house up in the district that automatically goes to Booker T, right? So he kept that house. He didn't live in it, but anyway, when he's getting his kids enrolled in school one year, they wanted, now we need your information for this and this. And he says, "Why you need that? What difference does it make what my 1040 form says?" "Well, this is for free lunch." No, we'll take care of our own lunches. He adamantly said no, and they kept pushing and trying. And then, I think it was 2 weeks later, he gets a letter in the mail saying, "Your family now qualifies and you'll be getting free lunch." His school signed him up anyway.
Yeah. No, they try to get away with it. Try to in every way to get that extra money that they can.
Because they get more than his kids get out of the deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The kids get the free lunch, but the school gets, I think it's almost a double amount of whatever they're spending. Well, the way they do it, they get a set amount, then they go out and contract with some food provider to provide the lunches as cheaply as they can get it.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. And I know we're getting off a rabbit trail, but gosh,
this is important stuff for people to know what's going on.
I mean, when I was a kid in school, I'm sure when you were, we had kitchen staff and cook, and they made our meals right there.
Yeah.
Now, almost all these schools just fast food crap.
Well, yeah, and I remember the day. It cost a quarter or 35 cents for a meal.
Yeah.
And you could get whatever you want. And I might eat twice a week. My mom would fix me a lunch, but then it was she'd give me like 50 cents for the week, and I have to pick which days I wanted to eat, in the cafeteria.
Yeah, but now, some of the schools that I've seen, there's like, it's Wendy's on Wednesday, and it's Burger King on Tuesday, McDonald's on Monday.
Yeah.
And it's just,
And then my son, my other son, who used to ended up providing all the meals, he set up the food program for Union.
Yeah.
The whole district. And he was telling me that there were these homeless kids. I mean, you don't know how many homeless students there are. And he said these kids would show up and, they don't have anything to eat. So they would, he worked out a way to make sure that these kids were getting fed. And they're not on a meal program because they don't have someone to sign up to get the free lunch program.
Yeah.
So these kids just don't eat.
You remember?
Now that's another situation that you have.
Do you remember a few years ago? I think this guy playing in the NFL. I think it was in Super Bowl, and he bought his dad a house in North Tulsa. And he said, when I was in high school, we lived in our car.
Oh no, you're talking about Josh Jacobs.
Okay, thank you.
He's from McLean.
McLean, yeah.
Yeah, he's still playing for the Raiders.
Yeah.
He's with the Raiders.
Yeah. That's one of Tulsa's homeless kids.
Yeah.
And so,
nicest kid too. I mean,
Yes.
you can't, how he grew up the way he grew up. He is just a gentle, sweet, and this is one of these miracle stories. Everybody said, huh? Tulsa? He's from Tulsa? He went to Alabama.
Yeah.
What happened, somehow, I don't know if his coach or someone sent a tape to Nick Saban. Nick Saban saw the tape, brought him in, signed him. All of a sudden, his senior year, the guy, he played his senior year. And then, I guess, did they play OU? I think, they played OU in one of the bowl games. I don't know if it was national championship. I think it may have been the national championship.
I think it was before the 14 tournament was.
Yeah, and he ended up just going crazy, looking good. And the Oakland Raiders, they were still Oakland at the time. Yeah. Oakland Raiders drafted him. Yeah. And now the kid, and he's still doing great. I mean, he's a great running back, great person, everything. But from McLean High School, just everybody, what, who, what, where? McLean? Yeah. I mean, of all the schools in Tulsa to come from, it wasn't Booker T like usual, It wasn't Jenks. It wasn't Union, Owasso, or Bixby. It was McLean High School.
Yeah, and I think it was Fox did almost like a half-hour documentary on him. And they interviewed his dad and stuff, and I listened to that man. And whatever your preconceptions are about parents raising a family and not having this dad, I wish I could be as great a man as his dad is. What a person's financial status is not an indicator of his character. Because I'm telling you, trouble can hit anyone. Mental illness can hit anyone. Bad health can hit anyone. And this is a man, a single dad with 3 kids, and he's struggling. But
and they were living out of their, they had a Ford Explorer.
There was that, and then if they could afford a cheap hotel, they always went for the hotel. But here's a guy, how does he build the kind of body that gets a D1 commitment if he has no food?
It's genetics.
Yeah, but still you got to feed the animal or you wither away.
Yeah. Somehow God does it.
Yeah.
He does it. You go to Africa, in these places where there's a dearth of food. Yeah. And you see these,
yeah, no, I get
incredibly built people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we believe in eating right.
Like sometimes you see these parents that are, let's just put it this way, they're not the best looking people on earth, and they have this daughter or son that end up being
like a
supermodel.
god.
Yeah, supermodels, and wait, how did where did that come from? It's just this, what they call freaks of nature, but in the good way.
Yep. Yeah.
But I call it more a blessing of God.
Yeah.
And it's just up to how you deal with it. But anyway,
that was a rabbit trail on 4 different rabbit
steroids.
Trails. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Hey, just a little tidbit. Apparently, in the new Emerson poll, Donald Trump now has a 51-point lead. Yeah. They're trying everything to cut him off. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
He now leads. You've seen that AI version of Ron DeSantis' speech conceding.
You were telling me about that. I haven't seen it.
I'll have to send that to you or look it up.
We'll go ahead and put a link on when I get it from him.
Yeah.
I'll put it with this
podcast. There's this AI generated speech of Ron DeSantis dropping out of the race. It's not really him, but unbelievable, because what AI can do, that's what's scary about it. And it's everything he should say and he should do for the sake of the party and for the nation. I believe. It's my opinion. And but anyway, I think even more so with now 50. If the Republican Party could coalesce around Donald Trump the way the Democrats have coalesced around Joe Biden and the senator from Pennsylvania. I mean, we would win this thing in a landslide.
Yeah. Yeah.
We would change and not only that, but in every state race as well. Herschel Walker should be the senator from Georgia. Dr. Oz from Pennsylvania. Kerry Lake in Arizona.
Governor. Yeah.
We should have the senator from Nevada. I mean, we should be owning the Senate, the House, and the White House. We're busy tinkering around, dinking around with the stupid stuff that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The division within ourselves. Abraham Lincoln, quoting Jesus, said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand."
Yeah.
As the Republican Party divides and falls as it is, I promise you, so will our nation. Our nation needs the Republican Party. Right now, the GOP is the only thing holding it together other than God. And, let's just take that for granted, okay? Not in the ultimate sense, but let's just put that aside. In a human standpoint, the GOP, what the remnant, the true remnant, is holding this nation together. Once it's gone, this nation is gone. I'm just going to tell you. Because what's going on right now, which is what I want to get into next, the whole situation with the Middle East.
Can we save that just for a second? Because there's a school-related thing.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Broken Arrow. We were talking about the size and scope and how so many families to escape Tulsa Public Schools moved to Broken Arrow. Broken Arrow just had one of their bus drivers arrested.
Oh, yeah, I read about that this week.
A Christian man with more grace than I can't imagine the amount of grace this guy has. Because he just gets hired. So he's a semi-retired guy. And Broken Arrow is just squabbling, somebody come drive our buses. And they hardly give him any training. And it's his second day, and he's on this new route. And the kids are acting up. We find out that the administrators have reprimanded the kids in the school bus twice already. And he finally pulls over because it's so disruptive, and they're opening the back emergency door and everything. So he stops right where he's at. And he says, "You kids are going to settle down." Now, they're already late because of all the disruptions. And keep in mind, this is one of the nicer parts of Broken Arrow, because where they pulled him over was between Target on Lynn Lane and the Bass Pro Shop. Okay? And yeah, this wasn't North Tulsa, folks. This is Broken Arrow families. All right? Don't act like you're uppity too much, that your kids don't disobey and cause a ruckus. And he's like he freezes. He says, everybody's going to calm down here. 68-year-old man, no criminal record. And he's not letting anybody out of the bus. He says, we are going to respect order here. Well, some parents are wondering because their kids haven't showed up. The parents want to pick up their kids at the bus stop and drive them the last block or two home. And parents go nuts. They call the police. The police arrest this man on kidnapping charges.
Right.
This is a kidnapper, don't you know? He lured him on with candy and, come in my van. No. And then get this. The police, Broken Arrow police, have him hauled down to the county jail. And initially he gets a $60,000 bond because it's kidnapping, don't you know? He can't afford this.
Right.
This is a guy who's on a pension probably and just needs a little extra money to buy food. And now he gets hit with $60,000 bond.
Which would be $6,000 basically. But
that
still.
it would cost, because the bond people who put up the money, they want 10%.
Right.
Then they dropped it to $10,000, which means he still has to come up with $1,000 to get out of jail. He doesn't have $1,000.
Right.
The next day, Steve Kunzweiler does the right thing and drops all the charges. After this man spends a week. This is how Broken Arrow treats their bus drivers. I'm furious.
Yeah. Hopefully people don't sign up to drive buses in Oklahoma.
I'm telling you,
not
Eddie.
Oklahoma, in Broken Arrow.
Okay. This happened a week ago, and then this last week they've been on, fall break part of the week. Tomorrow, Monday morning, I would just be thrilled to death if I saw that the bus drivers all called in sick. Because this is how the community stands behind them. This is pathetic.
Well, yeah, and those same parents who accused him of kidnapping, it was their kids.
Yes!
Who were doing all the dirt.
That's the thing.
I mean, they were jumping out of the emergency exit in the back and everything. I mean, what happened to the day when you rode on the bus, sat in your seat?
Yeah.
Maybe slapped somebody's hat off their head or so, did stupid stuff, but it wasn't of the nature that it is today.
And if you got in trouble, you said, please don't tell my mom and dad.
Right. Now, wasn't there, I thought I read, though, was just reading about it yesterday myself, wasn't there an administrator or somebody also on the bus? I thought I saw something where they got on the bus with them and tried to talk the kids down, and that was one of the saving factors of the bus driver, because this guy got on the bus.
That's probably true.
saw how, and they wouldn't listen to this person either.
It's likely in my mind that some wealthy, well-to-do, well-connected family who couldn't be their darling kids probably convinced the cops to charge them with kidnapping. And because our son missed karate practice or something. This is our problem. And Eddie, when you and I were kids, it seemed like the bus drivers, it may not be a fantastic career,
right,
but there was stability in that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has bus drivers that are weird or we didn't like. We had bus drivers that were grumpy or we didn't like, but you just sat there and just didn't like the bus driver, that's all. But you didn't do things to try to, because ultimately you would be in trouble.
Yeah.
You still respected the age of the bus driver, and he was still an authority over you. Yeah. So no, it's a whole different age. There is no respect for authority. There is no authority. I wrote way back when I first came to Tulsa, this was like 1993. I wrote this paper, and it's on authority. And what made me think of it, it was like a 27-year-old lady that I saw, and I think it was in Walmart. You see everything in Walmart. And she was wearing a T-shirt, and the T-shirt says, it's what kids say, "You're not the boss of me." And it made me think of how that's the attitude that people today have. No one is the boss of them. And so that has been handed down to the kids.
Yeah.
There's no respect of authority. You remember the day, I remember my mother, when I was in college and came home and met her neighbors in the military, like they lived in these military housing.
Yep.
And this was in Germany. And the neighbors across the hall from them, Chuck and Wanda, I remember their name, okay? Like, I'm 19 years old, Wanda's 18, and Chuck may be 20 or whatever. And so my mother wanted me to call them Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. I'm a year older than her and a year younger than him, and I'm supposed to call them Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah.
Because in my mom's mind, the old German respect thing, they had a job, they had some rank.
And they're married.
So I'm supposed to call them Mr. and Mrs. something, and instead of, hey, Chuck and hey, Wanda. But by the time we became parents, my wife and I, all of our friends, their kids, we were Eddie and Vicky. When we had kids, all of our friends became whatever. Like you would just be Dave. You wouldn't be Mr. Van Risingham. Okay. Now we always did introduce all of our older friends when our kids were old enough. They were all Mr. and Mrs. We still tried to pass that on, and it was yes sir, yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am, because that's something my dad instilled in me.
Yeah.
And it worked well.
Yeah.
I still when I speak, when I meet people for the first time on a business thing, or especially when I speak to the police or people in authority, yes sir.
Yeah.
Yes ma'am. Or if I'm talking to somebody on a business thing on the phone, yes ma'am.
Yep.
Yes sir. Yeah. It's just still there. It's something I can't shake, but it's amazing how it works.
Yeah.
How when you give respect, how you get the respect back.
Yep.
It's not a thing where people don't respect you. People respect your respect.
Yeah.
But people have lost it, and now we've got another third generation, I would say, of no respect. And that's what this is. This is an example of the lack of respect, and it's coming back in a bad way.
And I blame parents.
Totally.
Parents.
Oh, of course.
You know, because when the kid doesn't respect authority, that to me tells them what kind of parents they have.
Right.
And I see this in church. I've had problems in church where I go to another set of parents and say, you need to know what your kid's doing. Here's the evidence I have. And they get after me.
They get after you. My wife had that situation. Yep.
Yeah. So
in a Sunday school class, and the parents believed the kids and took offense and got mad at my wife because she tried to correct their child who had some issues. Yeah, that's the problem. You know, you cannot. You have got to try and accept what someone is saying. Now, what's the old Ronald Reagan adage? Trust but verify.
Yep.
You know, I mean, you know, if it's an ongoing problem, you'll figure it out. Someone else will verify that teacher, that adult is not doing right. And you should know your child. You should know your child enough to know.
Yeah.
what they're really like.
Yeah. I want to say some good things about this story. Things that amaze me about this bus driver. His name's Thomas Young. And Channel 6 was there at the jail to meet him when he came out. And the first thing he did was thank God and talk about God's grace and how his fellow jailers in his pod, I think he called it J3, were so encouraging to him and built him up.
Wow.
Yeah. And the fellowship he had in the jail.
Yeah, didn't he say the first night was a little rough?
Yes, he did.
But then afterwards, he relaxed. Because you've got to be scared.
Yeah.
Your first night in jail has to be, because all of the stories, the movies, and everything you think, am I going to get raped? Am I going to get
this is not
attacked?
A criminal guy.
Right.
He doesn't have a history of being in jail.
Exactly.
And he talked about that. And then they asked him the last thing, would you like to drive bus again? He said, I would. He said, I don't know that that's going to be possible anymore.
Right.
Because where does a man go to get his reputation back?
Right.
What I want to say is...
I do want to say this, so I want to give kudos to the district attorney in his office.
Absolutely.
For doing
Steve
the right thing.
Kunzweiler, salute you for your good discretion.
Yeah.
But not you Broken Arrow police who kowtowed to the well-connected, whose darling little kids were the cause of this, okay? Yeah, and I'm speculating. I know. There's more to this. But, my thing is, here's what I think he is owed, Ed. He's owed for a week of his life.
Yeah.
The time he would have had to earn income, and damages for the defamation.
Yeah, although they did report that there's a possibility that there will still be a civil case against him.
Well, Kunzweiler said there are all other possible remedies.
Right.
His job is to say, is there a crime here?
Right.
And he says, no, I don't see a crime here. And
right. Now, what I would say, though, is this. If those parents should pursue a civil case, then he should get an attorney and file a defamation, sure. Right, against them. A countersuit. He should file a countersuit against them. Right.
But I don't hold the Broken Arrow police harmless in this.
Yeah, well, yeah.
They've got to have better discretion than this.
Well, yeah, but see, when it comes to minors and children, it's always act and ask questions later, because the situation these days is always, if you're wrong the other way, the circumstances are always.
Well, here's what Kunzweiler said. This man wasn't a flight risk. He doesn't have any history in this. You can do your investigation, and then if it's necessary, issue a warrant for his arrest.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, I agree. I agree with that, but I'm trying to say that I can understand in a way why this may have happened. Now, I don't know the total circumstances. Is it that one of the parents was, like connected, or was one of the parents a friend to somebody at the police department?
Yeah, I don't know that.
Let's get this guy or something like that.
I understand that, but they get worked up and they imagine the worst, and they don't know this guy, and he's just a bus driver. Right. And that's part of the bigotry that you have, that somehow the bus drivers are below the rest of us because he doesn't drive a Mercedes like I do, or whatever. And
my question though is, if they're that well connected, why is their kid riding the bus?
So anyway, because get this, it was 1 mile from the school, just 1 mile from Broken Arrow High School, just 61st Street, But I do want to say, this guy, I think he's got a legitimate. I think this brings about a bigger need for us to look at how do we treat the people under us? Because here's the thing: if this had been a teacher, they would have been suspended with pay during the investigation. all of a sudden we treat our teachers a lot better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We do.
And-
You're right. You're right. With teachers, it's almost the other way around.
Exactly.
You know, see, I wonder if this had been a Owasso, would it have been different? Because I've grown to really respect the Owasso police, the way they handle things. Personally, I've had my own personal encounter with the Owasso police.
Yes, I remember that. Mr. Beer or two with his meal.
What do you mean, or two? Come on, you're exaggerating that. No,
Okay.
But not just that. The case where this lady tried to smash the one against the wall, and the other one, you know, managed to open the door and shut the car off and pull her out of the car. Without shooting her. I mean, you know, the first reaction, especially by the one being pinned against the wall, would have been to take out a gun and shoot the lady. You know, that would have been a remedy. I mean, there are all kinds of bad things that could have happened to the lady trying to kill the cop.
Yeah.
Where had it been Tulsa police or maybe another police force, they might have done that, whereas Owasso hadn't. And there have been several, not just that case or my case, but I've seen several cases now where the Owasso police seems to always use discretion. It's just weird that you can go from one county or one city and see such difference in the way the procedure is, the way they handle things without, and it always turns out to be okay.
Yeah. And, you know, actually one of our Supreme Court justices in Oklahoma used to be an Owasso cop.
Really?
Yeah. He went on to law school and eventually became a judge and then on Supreme Court.
Is he a good Supreme Court justice?
He had been really good. He's retired now. Okay. He stepped off. But I have to say, in every police force has some good, some bad. They also have some good who have bad days. And one of those cases involves a client of yours, the Williams family. Because and I talked to the head chaplain at the Tulsa County Jail. He said that 300-pound Owasso officer put his knee on Elliot Williams' neck during that.
Was an Owasso officer or a Tulsa?
Yeah, because they brought him into the jail, and they stay with him until he gets booked into the jail.
Right.
And he was acting up. You know, this is a psychotic guy. And, you know, puts his knee on. And then it was about 20 minutes later when the swelling in the spine had reached a certain point. It cut off all his nerves and he collapsed. And that's why they thought he's faking it, because he lost his use of his lower extremities once the swelling reached a certain point.
I see. Because I just always thought it was like the Tulsa jail people who didn't look in on him and check on him.
Right.
Because I thought they left him in, for several hours without.
No, he was being booked in. And this is part of the problem, because you got two separate law enforcement agencies.
Right.
And once this one leaves, the guys with the jail, the detention, they don't have any communication.
Right.
All they know is they're walking a guy down and he collapses. He's like, God, he must be faking it. First of all, you know, the Tulsa County Jail is on one level. There's no stairs. Yeah. The guy just falls down. You know? Yeah. So anyway.
So it was a George Floyd situation. With a knee on the neck.
Yeah, except this was a 300-pound guy, and it was truly on the neck. 300-pound officer.
Right.
From the and that's the definition I heard from the head chaplain at the jail. He was giving me a tour, and we just happened to talk. And I said, "What happened with Elliot Williams?" And he said, "I'll tell you what I know." And he saw it.
Well, I'm sure the family collected some
$20 million judgment. Yeah. And it led to a lot of changes. I got involved helping train on things, and I mean, we got a mental health pod. Because Michelle Robinette, who was in charge of the jail at the time, later became acting sheriff, it haunted her. You know.
Well, see, I remember way back when the dad came to me asking, is there anything I can do? Do I know any, the city councilor, county commissioners, anybody in the state that can offer help because they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
He's tried. He's called the police, and they told him the only thing they can do is arrest him. He's out in the street, attacking cars and this and that. And that's apparently what happened here in this case. He was loony. He was just, and there was, and so the police, I guess, trying to, I don't know how violent he was. Maybe they needed, and that's the thing too. I think they've changed the procedures now. This knee on the neck thing. I think,
Yeah, that's true.
I think, a little late for a couple of people, but in fact, the latest thing, I just saw it on one of the reports, one of the stories about the whole knee on the neck situation. I think Tucker may have just dealt with it again, trying to, in a way, excuse it. And I'm a big Tucker Carlson fan. Mm-hmm. But in this case, I have to disagree with Tucker.
Yeah.
I think as messed up as George Floyd was.
Yeah.
And the way the guy was doing it, because it was like he was kind of riding on his knee almost, and as messed up as he was, it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I think
there were other ways. To me, you had him handcuffed. Mm-hmm. You had him laying there. He was annoying. Yes, he may have been annoying because he was crying out and he was doing this and this and this. But, there was no need to have him down on his neck because they had him in the car. They got him out of the car. Just set him there by the car, wait for the ambulance. Because they had called an ambulance because they knew he was apparently in some problems. Why was he laid down and put a knee on his neck?
Yeah.
That's the question.
And that's, the training I'm involved in, crisis intervention training for cops. It's really to bring balance to their other training because they are so heavily trained on how to deal with the obstinate bad dudes. And the sad thing is when they're being so obstinate, it's hard to take them seriously when they say, man, I can't breathe. Man, I'm really having problems. All the things that if you and I were just talking to an officer on the street and we start saying, they get us medical attention. Mm-hmm. But they didn't for him.
Right.
And in reality, he didn't.
Maybe one of the things they need to start carrying as normal equipment is an oxygen tank. If somebody says, I can't breathe, here's oxygen. I mean, they've got their hands behind it. They agree, here's the oxygen. Yeah. Let them take it. And then if they continue to show the bad behavior.
And yet it's so tough because you can't get an EMT to show up for a condition like this. Yeah. Remember what they thought about, was it Rodney, who's the guy?
King.
LA, Rodney King. They thought he was on PCPs.
When they're beating the crap out of it.
Well, because they had already tried other things. Evidently, they tried a taser and everything, and when you're on PCPs, I mean, you have superhuman abilities,
That was just funny. I mean, here's my deal, okay? If a guy is that messed up and acting that wild and crazy, just let him, get it out of his system, right? Let him get it out of his system. Our pet case, the Muskogee thing, you know who the guy is, right? Let him run. You'll get him. Put a warrant out for him. You'll get the guy. He dropped his gun. He dropped his phone. You'll get him. There's no reason to shoot the guy. In the back, I mean, all these things, and I've seen too many videos of police who do use, this used to be me and Pat's big arguments, Pat Campbell and I, that we would just sit there and and I'd say, shoot into.
Just comply with his orders.
Yeah, or whatever.
You wouldn't have got killed if you complied with his orders.
Right. Yeah. And I couldn't, because I've seen too many cases where The officer didn't shoot. The officer didn't, and it still turned out okay. You know, the guy's scared. The guy doesn't want to go to jail. He doesn't whatever. But at some point, like the guy, you always hear, yes, the so and so, he turned himself in, because we know who he is. Yeah, he turned himself in.
Yeah,
let him turn himself in.
Yeah.
Right? What's wrong with that?
I know.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
yeah.
You saved a life.
I know.
You know, you saved a life. Who knows what the guy could have turned out to later, and he might thank you later. Oh, thank you, officer, that you didn't shoot me and kill me, and that I'm here. You know, you might become best friends later in life. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunity like that. He didn't pull a gun out on you. He ran. He ran. He didn't try to shoot you. You know, I mean, you should be thankful for that. So that's just.
Can I tell you, I'll try to be really quick with this. One of the guys that does training with me is a former police officer with Houston Police Department, Steve Lyons, lives here in town. His wife teaches at the Schusterman campus for OU. And his son, severely schizophrenic. And he thought his son was doing fine. They were invited to a wedding back down in Houston, and the two of them go on the car trip. They stopped, I think it was in Atoka or Durant, to get gas. And he's pumping gas. His son goes into the convenience store and stuff, and he finishes pumping gas, and he sees a cop car pull up. And he starts, oh, God, I hope this isn't because of my son in the store. And his son comes out, and the officer meets him, and Steve goes right over there. And he says, "Officer, I'm a former cop. This is my son. Was with Houston Police. He is schizophrenic. Okay, diagnosed." And the officer keeps looking at his son, and but acknowledges he hears him. And he mentions his name, and I'll just make up a name. Hey, Tom. And they start getting confrontational, and Tom comes up to the cop, pushes his shoulder. And the cop says, "Now, let's get some ground rules. How about this? I don't push you, you don't push me. Can we do that?" Okay. He gets to talking to him, and the
schizophrenic kid is Tom?
Yes, Tom.
Okay.
And the officers out. And then he gets to talking to him, and the guy is so good. It was just unbelievable, and de-escalates the situation. And then Steve, convinced him, was like, "Hey, obviously we're not going to get to continue our trip to Houston. I've got to get him some help." But then the officer, says just that, "Okay, you know what to do. You feel comfortable with this? Okay, I'll just release him to you." And it de-escalated the situation. When you're schizophrenic, some things can trigger, like new environments and that.
Right.
And anyway, so the cop wrote, Steve, my friend, wrote to this police department commending him and told the whole story. And Steve tells this story to the cops every time. And I can talk to these cops, and they'll kind of listen to me in that. But when a fellow cop talks to him, oh my God, he's got a gravitas that I'll never have. And he tells this story. But again, it tells you what you can do when you identify and know the difference between a psychotic break and just a bad dude looking to cause problems. And that's the kind of training that brings balance.
Well, see, here's the way I always looked at it, and this is what I used to get into it with Pat on, that, on one hand, you want to call them heroes. But on the other hand, you want to make excuses for them acting like the normal person would act. Like Pat always used to say, well, they were just acting like you would act. I said, well, wait a minute. Are they heroes, or are they acting like a normal person would act in this situation? Yeah. If we're going to make them heroes, then a hero doesn't act like I would act. yes, I would probably pull a gun and shoot somebody right away if my life is threatened, or I might take a certain action, but they're not like me.
Yeah.
That's why they are considered above military. The soldier is supposed to be trained to be, again, I know I sound like I'm a butt kisser or enamored with Owasso police. I'm just saying, from what I've seen locally, they seem to operate at a cut above Tulsa, Broken Arrow, others that I've seen.
And that's the culture that is instilled by leadership in that department.
Right.
That you foster that culture. And you'll get
another place I've seen is Highway Patrol.
Yes.
Highway Patrol, every time I've dealt with Highway Patrol, it's always been cordial. It's always been friendly. It's always been nice. Mm-hmm. They've always given me grace. It's always been a pleasure to deal with the Highway Patrol. I've never had a negative experience with the Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City Police, I've had bad issues with twice. Yeah. Tulsa, good and bad.
Yeah. So,
but I'm just saying, but that's the thing. Heroes are heroes because they're not like us.
Yeah, what I want to say, and I'm not an expert in law enforcement, okay? I'm going to say that right here. But if I was hiring a cop, the virtue number one I'd look for is self-confidence. And the reason I say that, I don't mean big head, big ego. In fact, having so much self-confidence that you don't feel threatened or your ego being challenged by a schizophrenic guy pushing you. Remember that story, the ambulance driver in southern Oklahoma that Officer Martin, the Highway Patrol, put in a chokehold? The ambulance, paramedic. And why was he mad? Because he claims they flipped him the bird, the ambulance driver. Yeah. And that's how fragile this guy's ego was, his self-confidence. The beautiful thing I've seen about teaching your kids martial arts is they get a confidence about themselves that keeps them from getting into fights because they can handle somebody saying something derogatory without feeling so vulnerable, so threatened that they got to resort to fighting. And so this is my problem with a lot of times our cops. It does require sacrifice, and you got to sacrifice self. You got to have humility. You have to really be servant of the people. Are you going to be a soldier or a servant? Right. And
you get the ones who you've seen the stereotype in the movies or TV that think that they put the badge on, it gives them a license to be better than everybody else or somehow superior, rather than that to protect and serve. They used to, certain police had that sign, to protect and to serve.
Absolutely.
But, it's more like to be served, to be special and be served. It's a flip of the deal. So, hey, we better move on to something. Hey, let's deal with the situation in Ukraine. I want to talk, which will flip us over into the Middle East. Okay.
Yes. All right. World
at
war.
Biden has just asked for another $105 million. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Billion.
Yep.
I'm like Dr. Evil. 105 million.
Pretty soon you're talking about real money.
$105 billion to send again. But here's the deal. He wants $60 billion of it to go to Ukraine.
Sure.
And only $16 billion to go to Israel.
Now, this is the same Ukraine that gives kickbacks to his son, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, yeah. And then some more going to Taiwan and then various other places. Yeah. What's the term? Sundry other places. No, but
walking around money.
Yeah, walking around money, yeah. But here's the deal. I was trying to think of, okay, what is going on? Why? And then finally it hit me. Why is he wanting to send so much money to Ukraine? And I'm sure some other people have thought of this. It's keep quiet money.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you Zelensky and others in Ukraine have the goods on him.
I think you're right.
They are blackmailing the
Because
guy.
I would venture to say I know you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he has to keep paying these people for silence, because they have the goods on. I bet you they have tapes. I bet they have photos, letters, emails that they could hang Joe Biden, but he is continually sending them money.
Yeah.
Walk around money, as you call it.
Meanwhile, Hillary, who gets millions from the Moscow mayor's wife, right, is so worried about Russian influence in American politics. The very woman who exploits them.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
somebody else Biden gave money to. Remember the Moscow mayor's wife?
Right.
That's some Biden gave her.
Yeah.
What was it, like $10 million or something?
Yep, it's
maybe more.
The corruption.
Could be billion again.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what. But so this is just insane. $105 billion now. Again, we want to give again to foreign aid,
right? But
$60 billion of it. Mm-hmm. So 60% basically, or almost 55% of it going to Ukraine,
right.
But he wants to play on everybody's sympathy for Israel.
That's right.
And hope nobody's paying attention.
That's right. And you can't be a good Christian if you don't support the Jews.
Right. So we we want to help Israel. In fact, it's funny because if you read the articles, they all talk about the $105 billion he wants to give to Israel, and then Ukraine and others. They put Israel first.
Oh, yeah.
Even though Israel is only getting like 10% of the money, while Ukraine is getting 60%, 60% of the money. I mean, this is so crazy to me. And I mean, when will it stop? When will somebody say stop? When will the Republican Party stand up? Or Congress, the Republicans in Congress, when can buck up and say stop? He's worried about keeping Jordan out of the speakership, but is he worried about what's going on right now here? Yeah. Is he going to support money? He'll probably stand up and say, yes, we must support our allies in Israel and the Ukraine and in Taiwan and so on, so on, so on. So he's right there. And then I bet you if you check, he's getting campaign funds from Raytheon, from General Dynamics, from you name it. Mm-hmm. So that's the state that we're in our nation. Yeah. Yeah. It just drives me nuts.
So is Israel going to do land force occupation of Gaza? That's the next question.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I really don't know.
Okay, our friend Vivek Ramaswamy is warning us. If Israel goes in, then America's going to war, because he says that will trigger what's their names, Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon, which is Syria / Iran-controlled forces, that they will go to war, and Israel will not be able to handle the barrage of missiles that will overwhelm the Iron Dome. And they're saying that because of that, it will be a crisis in Israel.
But you know what that really means, though? Ramaswamy, being a Hindu, does not know the power of God.
Well, okay. But then somebody else says, hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy.
Yeah, I mean, you can hope that, supernatural forces come in and that. But as a statesman, you have to question the natural choices.
Let's just put it this way: I put my trust in faith rather than over strategy.
So the whole point he's saying is that the United States needs to pressure Israel. Don't go into Gaza. That's really the cutting edge of it.
Yeah.
And a President Ramaswamy would basically tell Israel, you're on your own if you go into Gaza.
Yeah, well, maybe they should be on their own, but they should get help. Here's what bothers me about all of it, okay? Ukraine, for starters. Mm-hmm. Why are we giving another $105 billion to Ukraine, or $60 billion out of it, and Europe hadn't given another.
Oh, yeah. No,
penny.
This was just an excuse to get more money for Ukraine,
right,
tied to Israel.
Right. And then where is Europe on anything for Israel? Okay.
Right.
What we need to do is say nothing for Ukraine. Talk to your neighbors all around you if you want help for Ukraine. We're going to give $105 billion.
And I've heard at least two sources in Congress saying, no, that's going to get split into two bills.
Yeah, which is good.
Israel is going to be separately handled from Ukraine.
And it needs to be. It needs to be. Now, related article, King Abdullah of Jordan.
Jordan, right.
He is saying no refugees from Gaza in Jordan and Egypt.
That's right.
So this has been the case all along, that the Jordanians and Egyptians will not accept Palestinians.
More Palestinians, because Jordan right now, the population is about 80% Palestinian. The Bedouins who hold the kingdom are a small minority.
Right. Well, yeah, but just in general, see, there's a lot of land to the. I keep on looking east.
Yeah.
East of the Jordan River. Mm-hmm. Okay. And in fact, if you will, Saudi Arabia, much of it is nothing but wasteland, desert. Yeah. It's all free. It's open land. Mm-hmm. They could easily just go out there. Okay. Mm-hmm. Irrigated, learn to inhabit it.
Yeah, you talk about pipelines. By God, that's a pipeline for water.
Listen, with the modern technology, it should not be a big deal to run.
It's flat land. You should have no problem.
So, but the Jordanians, the Egyptians, the Syrians, nobody wants these people.
Right.
They have rejected them, and they continue to reject them. They find all kinds of excuses, but they don't really care about them. They've had an opportunity to have them even before the population exploded to this point. They don't want them, but they want Israel to just give them their land.
And the reason they don't want them, I would conjecture it's because they've been trained to be nothing but hostile people who are going to be unruly. They're animals. I mean, not all of them, but Hamas, hey, people who know way more than you and I know they're animals. I think Biden called them animals. Hamas.
I think they're like gypsies in Europe. Like in Europe, the people hate gypsies. Mm-hmm. In Germany, they've hated gypsies. In France, Spain, no matter where you go.
Gypsies went to the gas chambers too.
Yeah, they hate gypsies. Still to this day, they don't like, because gypsies are known to be pickpockets, charlatans, you name it, criminals, basically.
You know where they come from?
Romania, isn't it? Albania or Romania, somewhere down in that.
Is somewhat speculation, but when Islam overtook the Middle East, the gypsies were Arabs, Persians mostly, actually, that because of their dark arts were expelled. And the first place they went to was Egypt. And then when they were expelled from there and went to Europe, coming from Egypt, they were called gypsies.
Oh, they just
they moved up to Romania.
Gypsies.
Yeah. They went to Romania and Hungary, was where they were in predominance when they came up from Egypt, because they're trying to leave the harsh government, ban on their dark arts.
Right.
Because they were often fortune-telling is
Right,
historical,
fortune-telling is
you know,
another
different
one, right.
things like that. But that's my story. Now, if you've got a different one, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, werewolves and
Yeah.
yeah,
Transylvania.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Let me tell you a fortune.
but yeah, you were talking about Jordan doesn't want. Now listen, Jordan,
Egypt
and
doesn't
King
want him.
Abdullah, very friendly to the United States. In fact, Queen Noor is an American,
Right.
you know, who is King Hussein, Abdullah's dad, was one of his wives, not Abdullah's mother.
Right.
But in fact, I think all of the royal family have been educated in our colleges. You know, as actually Benjamin Netanyahu is an MIT grad. His dad was a professor at Cornell. So the Netanyahu family is very much a part.
You learn stuff here.
Ivy Leaguers.
Ivy
So anyway, they don't want them, and I think it's just because you know, they're just. What do you do with them?
No, it's not just that. It's who they are. They're the N-words of the Middle East.
I
That's
don't
what
think they won't assimilate. It's like the Somalians in St. Cloud, Minnesota, will not assimilate.
Right.
Finally, one of them went with a knife down to Crossroads Mall and stabbed a dozen people.
Yeah, that's just it. Yeah. There's certain people groups that are like that, and nobody wants them. Nobody wants them, and so therefore they don't want them in their lands. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Kind of digressing a little bit, moving over to Hungary. You mentioned Hungary. Mm-hmm. Hungary is the one place in Europe, and they've been attacked, called Nazis and all. They're not Nazis. Well, in a way, they're not. You leave the C off of the SI off or ZI off of it, but they are nationalists.
Sure.
True nationalists.
Yes.
He doesn't want.
That's not a bad thing.
No, he doesn't want any non-purification of the nation. He
want to retain the culture.
He wants to retain the Hungarian culture.
Yes.
That's what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And so they're being attacked as being Nazi or whatever. But what's funny, you go to Ukraine, they've got actual Nazis in Ukraine. Oh, that's the article I forgot to mention. And, did I print it? No, I didn't print that one. Doggone it. Yeah, there's a news story. That Zelensky and them, they're now officially banning the Eastern Orthodox Church in Ukraine.
Wow, that's the Orthodox Church.
The Orthodox Church
headquarters was in Istanbul originally. This is not the.
Or the Russian Orthodox Church.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry,
now
the Russian Orthodox.
Yeah, that's the Russian
Orthodox
organization.
Church, right.
There's also Ukrainian Orthodox.
Well, maybe
Church.
it's the Ukrainian Orthodox. I'm not sure.
I think it'd probably be the Russian Orthodox.
One of those.
They're all cousins under the orthodoxy of the original Istanbul Church, which the Roman Catholics are actually a split off of too.
Yeah. Well, it was the split in Constantinople with the Eastern Orthodox, and let's just call it the Eastern Orthodox Church.
But see, then they further split by nationality, Ukrainian and Russian.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry. I'm going to try to look this up because I just ran across it this morning. Ukrainian Parliament. Yeah, it just says Ukrainian Parliament votes to ban Orthodox Church. Doesn't say Eastern
That's bad
Greek.
Journalism. Yeah, that's way too. That's obviously that person doesn't understand.
It's the Guardian.
Yeah, but
see,
gosh,
I think
that's that.
Well,
see,
it said the Ukrainian Orthodox Church.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it says the Ukrainian Parliament gave initial approval Thursday to a law that would ban the Moscow-linked Ukrainian Orthodox Church after Kiev accused it of collaborating with Russia following last year's invasion.
Okay.
The UOC, Ukrainian Orthodox Church.
Yeah, now see, from all those years under Soviet rule, the church was reorganized organized in Moscow under the Russian Orthodox Church, but they recognized that portion that had Ukrainian culture.
Right.
So it evidently is still a very Russian Orthodox, just kind of under the label of Ukrainian.
Mm-hmm. The law would ban the activities of religious organizations affiliated with the centers of influence in a state that carries out armed aggression against Ukraine, and such activities could be terminated by a court of law.
Okay, now, can I say something, Eddie?
Yes.
This is not something that Americans can't relate to, because when we signed the Declaration of Independence against England, the Church of England had many congregations here, but they organized separately then, called themselves the Episcopal Church, where they officially do not recognize the King of England as the head of their church.
Right.
And I think this is a possible solution for Ukraine, for those Ukrainian congregations, to send delegates to actually have a council and resolve this. Are we Ukrainian or are we Russian?
Right.
Who is our master? And I think if they will make a statement saying we have nothing to do with Russia.
Right. There's another one. There's the Orthodox Church of Ukraine.
Okay.
The OCU and the UOC.
Okay.
Just flip it around.
Well, there you go.
This is the Ukrainian Church of...
So individual congregations could just vote to leave the one group and join the other.
Right.
Much like is happening in the Methodist churches today.
Right.
So,
but you know, my question is, how loyal, or what constitutes loyalty? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And is it a question of, are they loyal to God, or are they loyal to Russia, or are they loyal to Ukraine? Yeah. It would be like saying, you know, the Southern Baptists. Mm-hmm. You know, if the Southern Baptists, for example, the Southern let's take Pentecostals, charismatic churches. Mm-hmm. Certain Pentecostals tend to be more Republican.
Yeah, I'd say fundamentalist evangelicals.
So all of a
generally.
sudden, the Biden administration says we're going to ban all Pentecostal churches.
Yeah, that would be bad.
So, but even though Pentecostal churches basically are preaching the gospel, mm-hmm. whereas the American Baptist churches mm-hmm. are very liberal and they lean more Democrat. So you guys are okay because you tell everybody to basically bow down to the Biden administration.
It really, I think an appropriate analogy would be if we were actually at war against, say, South Africa, and Reformed churches of America, which is very much a South African thing.
Well, it's Dutch. It comes
right.
out
Yeah, Afrikaner. But you know, if we were at war with them, and yet this particular denomination vows a loyalty to this civil government that we're at war with, then we've got a problem. And all of a sudden, Crystal Cathedral is seen as a danger because they were Reformed. Mm-hmm. In fact, they were the biggest Reformed church congregation in the world, you know.
Yeah.
And so we could have scenarios like this, but largely it's not their, singing hymns that is the problem.
Right.
It's not the guy. It's, what are they using their resources?
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing. To me, you can't just ban a church and church activities. You can watch what they're doing or see. I mean, sabotage is sabotage, mm-hmm. right? Espionage is espionage.
Sure.
But you don't just come down on somebody because they're whatever. That'd be like closing every mosque in America now because of Islamic activity.
I think it can be simply done on paper what Ukraine feels they have a need to do. You freeze assets, you freeze the transfer of assets, but you don't lock church doors.
Yeah, but if you freeze the assets, the church can't operate. I mean, how do they get their money? How do they pay their rent? I'm
saying, no, the congregation can still support their pastor. What I'm saying is, you just keep money from flowing to Moscow.
Oh, well, yeah, you can. Well, yeah, sure, you can make sure they're not exporting funds or whatever.
And you could even go so far as to monitor communications internationally.
Yeah, sure. That's what I'm saying.
And
Yeah.
if that bothers you, then talk to the NSA and the CIA because they're doing it to you and me, okay?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they're already doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, but you don't just ban a church.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say.
I agree. And so, you know, I'd like to read more than just this one somewhat ambiguous.
Well, there's tons of articles just I mean, from different, not just the Guardian.
But I'm saying you do it without making yourself an enemy of Jesus Christ. You know,
right.
I mean, when my son was in Russia with YWAM, he constantly was up against the people there in Nalchik in the Caucasus Mountains, associating Christianity with Moscow, with the Soviets, because the only Christianity they knew was the Russian Orthodox
Church, right.
Church. And he's trying to give them a Jesus that's not political.
Well, see, even in Western Europe, Germany, for example,
where you were at,
you have what they call the church, and then you have the free church.
Yes.
So you have the Lutherans and the Catholics, but then everything else is called the free church, the Baptists, the Pentecostals, the Episcopalians, and on and on and on. And so these, and as I said, the weirdest thing is that the Catholic pastors and the Lutheran pastors, they're all paid by the state.
Yeah.
And so you pay church tax.
Yeah,
you
they take it out of your paycheck.
Yeah, you get paid, and that's how they pay the salaries of the priests and the pastors, which is the weirdest thing here. But the others have to live off of just tithes and offerings and so forth.
Wow.
And that's why a lot of Germans are opposed to the church, because they don't like the whole thing and the whole state-run church. So it's a crazy thing.
Yep.
But you ain't got anything else for today?
Yeah, so I think I covered most of it. I did send you a link. I'm going to put it up there. Musam Hassan Joseph is a young man I read the testimony of. His father was one of 7 men that formed Hamas in the 80s. And he eventually was imprisoned in Israel. And when he saw these other Hamas terrorists, he realized the depravity of it. And because of other Palestinian influences, this man gave his life to Jesus Christ. And getting out of prison, he then actually was a intelligence operative for Israeli intelligence. What I was reading and listening to his testimony is in San Francisco. This is a guy, I'm sure, with a price on his head. But he gave us such a deep insight into who Hamas is. They are not a nationalistic organization. They are more like ISIS than anything else. They will kill Muslims for not being radical enough.
Right.
So Hamas right now is exploiting the idea that this is about independence for Gaza. They don't give a blank about Gaza. They want their, extremist Islamics.
Yeah, they want to rid the land of Jews.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Yeah. And the butchery, the depravity. And here's what's so sad about it. They identify their allegiance to Allah, how great of an Islamic follower they are, by how depraved their butchery of the enemies is.
Yeah, and what really gets me is the ignorance and utter stupidity of American university campuses.
Yeah.
That these kids you see joining in these so-called protests against Israel, and pro-Hamas, or well, they call them pro-Palestinian. I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning and let my dog out and stuff. But I'm laying there and I'm looking at watching some of these videos. And there's one black girl that's in there, and she's talking about Hamas. Yeah, she's pronouncing Hamas, Yeah, I'm against atrocities committed against Hamas. And he said, who? Hamas. And there's some Palestinian or some other more Arab-looking guy standing there close. Oh, sorry. And he looks over, and all of a sudden he steps out of the picture, out of the frame. He didn't want to be associated with it. But, I mean, just the utter ignorance and stupidity. She doesn't even know how to pronounce the name. Well, Hamas is not affiliated with they're Palestinians, not Hamas. And I was like, oh, my goodness, and Israel's committing these atrocities. But here's what's funny, that these people want Israel to stop the persecution and the violence against Palestine. Israel is not committing atrocities, killings, or violence against the Palestinians. They're leaving them alone.
Yeah.
It's the other way around. But somehow these people have been convinced in their minds that the Jews are committing violence against the Palestinians. The Palestinians can live their lives. It's Hamas that is oppressing the people, their own people, to kind of act like attack dogs against Israel. Mm-hmm. And they're saying we have to do this because Israel is keeping us here. That's the only reason we're doing it. And they're buying it. And these idiots, I mean, how did we get to the point where the so-called intelligentsia of our nation, the universities, are the stupidest people in our country?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to me.
You would run into more hostility being a Hamas supporter in Egypt than in America.
Yeah, that's true.
Egypt has had it with them.
Yeah.
They totally disavowed them.
Yeah.
And it's really bad. It actually, I think in some ways is good that it's identifying itself.
Yeah.
And I think particularly the secular Jews in the United States who now see what leftist politics is done.
Yeah, I mean, they need to apologize to our friend Kanye. Mm-hmm. I think we talked about this last week. Kanye just spoke out against the business Jews, the ones who control the music and the arts and music and industry. Oh, yeah. And they want to ostracize him as being anti-Semite. And you're looking at where they really are. They're in Congress.
Yeah. Yeah.
You take the...
Oh, Talib. Right away, they bombed our hospital. The Israelis bombed our hospital. And she won't apologize. She won't recant. By the way.
And what's your girl from Minnesota?
Oh, Omar. Yeah.
Have you saw the clip with her now, right? Talking the most recent clip where she's talking about how Israel is just practicing violence against the people of Palestine and the killings. And I said, what are you? And the sad thing is there's a Fox reporter in this one video asking her about, the bombs and everything going over. And then Omar comes back at her. And then the girl never says anything. Boy, I wish I could be on there. I would just love to rip her to shreds.
Yeah, this is a real problem because evidently New York Times still has not disavowed their reporting claiming that Israel
about
bombed
the hospital. Yeah.
And it goes back to, you remember when Channel 4 in Oklahoma City reported about that the ivermectin poisonings in eastern Oklahoma are so bad that they're turning hospitals into triage units. Ambulances, and people with gunshot wounds can't even get an ambulance to show up. They still have not recanted that.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. And
they just hope you don't remember.
Yeah, and I don't forget. And you know what? The listeners of this show, I just reminded again. Yeah. Okay.
We should write a letter.
Yeah.
We should get everybody to write a letter to Channel 4.
And it was one of the famous Ogle families, the great legacy of Oklahoma City journalism, the Ogles, was actually a producer, the author of that report. It was garbage. Yeah. And listen, I know during COVID, there was a lot of money coming from vaccine pharmaceuticals paying for journalism. I know that was happening. And I'm guessing this is what happened here. They got paid to do a story. So this is my, New York Times, you just proved you're not worth anything anymore. And you know what? A good journalism knows when they screwed up. Eddie, you've had to correct your own statements. I've corrected my own statements. Yes. But you know what? That's because we're honest people.
Right.
We're not trying to mislead and deceive.
Right. No, you're right.
I can't say that about the Times.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. So, and Tlaib, she still has, she
won't.
She's going to cry. It's okay to cry,
Yeah, no, the good news is that even within their party, at least they're giving some surface blowback, because they know. See, the Democrats have kind of earned whatever respect and power they have in this nation a lot from the Jewish community.
Yeah.
The money Jews.
Yeah.
But they know they're in trouble now if they don't kiss up to that faction. And so they're starting to realize they can't put up with, they've got to speak out against that.
Yeah.
That's why they're in problems. They don't know what to do. They're starting to have some infighting. They've, I believe, gone a little too far. Mm-hmm. And unless the squad, they've got to do something about the squad at some point. Otherwise, it's what they call it, the circular firing squad. Mm-hmm. They're just shooting at each other.
But I'm just wondering how many more household servants in Martha's Vineyard from the Obama household are we going to have? Because eventually you're going to
have die.
Yeah, that you're going to see at some point narratives of just how the Democrat Party got taken over by this very anti-American bunch.
Yeah.
By the way, we're wearing our traditional black for this show. I did not get the memo from OU. They're all wearing pink today. Well, not the uniforms of the team, but the coaches are all wearing. I guess that's for breast cancer awareness.
Or is it breast cancer?
Do you know that more people die from prostate cancer than breast cancer?
Yeah, but who cares about men?
Yeah, that's pathetic. Why is healthcare so controlled by women in this country?
Because the country is controlled by women.
Yeah.
There's a prophecy in Isaiah 3.
Yeah.
It's kind of a end times. Here, let me read it for you.
Yeah. By the way, while you're pulling that up, Eddie, it is a game in Norman.
With UCF?
Yeah, UCF right now is in the lead.
Oh, you're following that.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were just talking about the game.
Yeah.
He says, and this is actually talking about Israel and Jerusalem, but I see it on a broader thing about more of the end times. It says, see now the Lord Almighty is about to take from Jerusalem and Judea both supply and support, all supplies food, supplies water, the hero and the warrior, the judge and the prophet, the diviner and the elder, the captain of the 50, the man of rank and the counselor, skilled craftsman and clever enchanter. Here it is. I will make mere youths their officials, and children will rule over them. Mm-hmm. Which version is? Oh no, hold on. I got to get the right version. I don't like this one. Hold on.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's try this again. Okay, I will make mere use their officials, and children will rule over them. The people will oppress each other, men against men, neighbor against neighbor. The young will rise up against the old, the nobody against the honored. A man will seize one of his brothers in his father's house and say, "You have a cloak, you will be our leader, take charge of this heap of ruins." But here, when you get down here, let me find the other verse that's... Okay, yeah. Youths oppress my people, women rule over them. That's the verse I'm looking for.
Yeah.
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 Youths oppress my people, and women rule over them. Does that sound like today?
Political correctness.
Does that sound like Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
And every place else?
I'll quote our good friend Pat Campbell, the late Pat Campbell. He who defines the language controls the argument. Or he said something to that effect.
Yeah.
Political correctness is just about controlling how your opponent is able to communicate with you. You keep correcting them and tell them, no, you're not allowed to use that term. Now, you're letting the other person define the terms. You know, it's kind of like Walter Martin used to say, you know, you listen to the cults, they'll sound like they're, until you get them to define the terms. Mm-hmm. They don't define their terms the way you and I are familiar
right.
with.
Well, that's their key. They redefine the redefinition of terms. So,
yeah.
Which is what the Democrats have been really good at.
Yeah.
And now I think that's what Islam is able to do in our country. And they're using the Democrat Party as a part of it.
Right. And so what happens is they shame us into trying to make us feel bad for using terms, and we just got to not be shamed anymore.
Yeah, like they've redefined our term democracy. That's one of the big ones that they're using over and over and over and over. Nazi, you know, things like that. You know. All right, I think we've exhausted things. We've beaten a dead horse until it comes back to life.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, have a great week.
All right.
And, hey, pray for the country. Pray for this nation, that's okay? Right. And it's not over yet. I believe that we're still in it. Pray for Israel. And, again, pray for the United States of America. And we will talk to you next week. God bless.
Yeah.